Okay, as I told you today, we will work on topic 14 and then topic 16 in another video. So you will find two videos uploaded on the YouTube channel. Just in case if you want to refer back to one of the videos in order to focus on all of the basic information. Throughout the explanation, I will give you the hints or the different style of questions that we might face on those topics. Topic 14, we will talk about coordination and response. So we need to study coordination and response in plants and in animals as well. Okay. Um, let's start with sensitivity or the definition of sensitivity. Before going to this point, which is the starting point of the course, let me define sensitivity with you. If it is 2 marks question, guys, we have to say number one, it is the ability to detect, then response. Using two verbs like detect and response in this definition will give you the 2 marks directly. You can write any English after that. So you should write the ability to detect any change, or instead of change, internal or external environmental change, we can write stimuli or stimulus, singular and plural, it is the same. In order to respond, to protect your body, for example, but I want you to write to respond to this change. So today we will work on the application of this. We took the definition of sensitivity in topic 1 when we were talking about features of living things. Now we need to apply this. How does an organism respond to a stimulus? Definitely, we have different types of organisms. First one, plants. The ability to grow towards the light is a kind of response. The ability of swim to the light, it's a kind of respond to specific stimuli. And here, stimuli is the light, and here stimuli is the light, and here stimuli is the light, or stimulus is the light, because stimulus is the singular word. The response happened from different living organisms, plants, euglena in front of us, cockroaches. All of this response will definitely happen for a certain reason. Cockroach, for example, cannot live in extreme temperature or extreme heat or extreme hot climate. That's why it will move away from light. Euglena, for example, swim in order to carry out photosynthesis, so it will swim towards the light. And plants also grow towards the light to carry out the photosynthesis process. What is the role of the nervous system in our body? The nervous system in our body, and as I told you in the class, coordinates should be implemented in the answer. The nervous system regulates, coordinates the body responses. It regulates all of the body functions. The probability of having a question like this in the exam is really rare, but I want you, ya habibi, to focus on the words or the verbs that we are using. If I'm talking about sensitivity, I have to use stimuli and response. I have to use detect and response. If I'm talking about nervous system, I have to use regulates and coordinates. As you know well, the central nervous system is the main core in this topic, and it made up of spinal cord and all of the brain cells or nerve cells in the brain. If he asked you what's meant by sense organs, Yamaya, if I told you what's meant by sense organs, I have to mention that it is a group of receptor cells. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, if you want, fine. If you want to join the online session from your study room, fine. If you want to stay here, most welcome. Do whatever you want. I'm happy with all, but please, no problems. Please enter the meeting. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So this will help the body to adjust rapidly to any change to the environment and enable various parts of the body to coordinate with one another quickly. In here, we have to focus because as you felt from the early beginning, all what we mentioned, we can consider this as a general information. I'm not keeping the slide of objectives, guys, but this is your slide. When you finish the studying process or overview of all of these slides, you have to draw your concept mapping, you have to draw your mind mapping, and you have to go back for the objectives. As you know well, I think it's a bit late to mention this. All of the objectives are the objectives from CIE specification. So it's not my objectives to be delivered. What are the components of the human nervous system? The human nervous system made up of two main parts, central one and peripheral one. We will not talk about the peripheral nervous system. All of the cranial nerves and spinal nerves extended from the central nervous system is the peripheral one, but you will not find any question related to this, honestly. But the main nervous system or the central nervous system made up of brain and spinal cord. We took the example of how the sense organ receives stimuli and how it transmits all of the nerve impulses and how it takes the action or how the action will be taken by the effector. So if you understand this diagram, you will understand every single slide coming. Number one, what's a sense organ? Sense organ is a group of receptor cells responding to specific action or detect and respond to specific action. So it starts with the receptors. Receptors are some nerve cells has an ability to detect any change. So if we have here flame, if we have candle, if we have any unsuitable conditions and your skin or your receptors in your skin detect this change, what will happen? Message will be transmitted through the sensory neuron and it reach the central nervous system. Here, guys, you have to mention that the central nervous system regulates and coordinates the function by specific type of neuron, and you know the name of this neuron called relay neuron. So the relay neuron or this type of nerve cell coordinate the action, sending the message through the motor neuron to the effector. The effector could be your muscle, your gland, any specific part of your body that will respond or will take the action needed. So simply, if he asked you to organize, to arrange, to mention, to write the letters, to do whatever he wants in a question like this, if you know well, Yamaya, that all of the actions will be arranged starting from receptors, then sensory neurons. So number one, receptors here. Then message will be transmitted through sensory neuron to the central nervous system in which we have relay neuron to coordinate the function or to coordinate the action needed. And finally, the effector, which is the muscle or the gland, will take the action, will be the end point for this. Okay, so very important, as I told you, to implement not less than 3 scientific terminology, 3 biological terminology in your answer. And honestly, Judy, now we have a lot of terminology. We said receptors, the sensory neuron, relay neuron, central nervous system. So the examiner will realize that your answer is really valuable. What are neurons? Neurons are nerve cells, simply. We have a display board here for the neurons in the lab, and you checked the neurons type. but there are some adaptation happened in order to do the function accurately. The sensory neuron, this one, usually بالقاسم has a lateral cell body. So this could give you a mark, okay, I'm sorry. This could give you a mark because in the exam, the sensory neuron will be totally clear and obvious based on the diagram. So in the exam لو لقيت الدياجرام أو لقيت الدrawing they start from a side وفي neuron or a nerve cell has the sensory has the lateral cell body like this انت you realize دي عايز ان ايه انه المسج will come in this direction from the receptor here through the sensory neuron and then in the brain, and don't ignore this pale baby blue color. It represents the central nervous system, either the brain or the spinal cord. So inside the brain or the spinal cord, we have relay neurons. The relay neuron is really short because there is no need to have a long axon here in the brain or spinal cord. We need the message to be delivered quickly, and we need the message to be coordinated quickly. And then the motor neuron, this motor neuron is the neuron will take the action or will deliver the action to be taken by the effector. Some students بيبقوا دايما confused يا دانيا، هو ايه الافكتور وايه المصل يا سر؟ الافكتور هو المصل، بس الافكتور could be any other tissue than the muscle, like tissues, for example, like glands, to secrete a specific hormone to take the action. This is an example of the effector. But في exam, if you wrote effector or muscle, if you have a muscle in the drawing, this will be. In all of the neurons, we have tiny junction, and in this tiny junction, the neurotransmitters or the chemical substance will transmit the message through this tiny junction. If I drew a circle in this area, we have the synapse or the neurotransmitter. The neurotransmitters in the synapse will be transmitted. So in the exam, what is a synapse or what are synapses? Is a tiny junction between two neurons. And what is the function of this area? This area responsible for transmitted all of the chemical released by the neurons, and we named those chemicals neurotransmitters. This slide is extremely important, and I am expecting to find a question related to synapses in your papers, either بقى paper 2 or paper 4 مش فارقة، بس synapses is an extremely important part in this slide. Synapses area is, or synaptic area, or synaptic gap, or synaptic cleft in this area. What will happen is through the axon, we have a lot of neurotransmitters in a vesicle like this. Those are neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters moved in a vesicle like this and fused with the membrane of the presynaptic cell or the presynaptic neuron. So النيوروترانسميترز دول شوية chemicals موجودين في vesicle هيفضلوا move through the axon of the neuron, of the presynaptic neuron, then it will be fused with the cell membrane like this. Once الفيسيكل دي fused يا اولاد خلاص يا دانيا النيوروترانسميترز will diffuse in this synaptic area. And now I'm saying diffusing if you observe 3 times because you should mention the process. اوقات يا حبايبي بتسالوني انا مش لاقي حاجه تانية عشان complete الانسر بتاعتي to take ال 4 marks or 5 marks because you described what will happen here. Okay, but honestly you need to mention something about the diffusion process. because all of the chemicals will diffuse from high concentration to low concentration through partially permeable membrane. High concentration, like a lot of neurotransmitters here, to low concentration in the synaptic cleft or synaptic gap. So we have some protein receptors here will accept all of some of the neurotransmitters. I cannot say all, some of the neurotransmitters to deliver the message to the relay neuron or the post-synaptic neuron. عمر will ask me now, sir, أيوة يعني أكتب إيه؟ الأنسر بتاعتي to be out of 4 marks or to be a perfect one. We should write that neurotransmitters will be transmitted through a synaptic vesicle in the axon, and then it will be fused with the synaptic membrane. In the synaptic gap, diffusion process will happen. The movement of neurotransmitters will be from high concentration to low concentration through partially permeable membrane or through synaptic membrane or presynaptic membrane. On the postsynaptic membrane, we have some protein acts as receptors, has a specific shape to be compatible or complementary with the neurotransmitters. So it will take some neurotransmitters to be delivered to the postsynaptic membrane. Do you have any problem in the process, guys? Am I going that fast? Well, it's okay for you all. Could you please reply?
It's okay, Mr.
It's okay, fine.
It's okay.
Okay, great. Great. Zizo حاجتيني. That's nice to be with me for online session. Okay. How does the nervous system process information? How it processes the information? I think we have mentioned this and there is no need to talk about this now. Sensation, which is the first part, through the receptors, sensory neuron, relay neuron, and finally to the brain, or the relay neuron in the spinal cord, and then the message will be delivered to the brain. حتى يا ولاد لو السباينال كورد هو اللي take الاكشن quickly, because we need to protect our body against any unfavorable conditions or unsuitable conditions, لازم المسج تروح للبرين. لو teacher عمل action مع students in the class لازم by any means البرنسبل تعرف. فاحنا we have to mention this and we have to say to deliver the message to the brain in order to be aware of all of the action taken in the body. طيب الاكشن بقى taken بتحصل ازاي؟ بتpass through ايه؟ From the brain to the spinal cord, and then the motor neuron will take the message or will deliver the message and effector. لو البوينت بتاعت السباينال كورد هتلخبطكم no problem at all, you need to mention either السباينال كورد or brain. No problem to mention both عشان ما تتلخبطوش. We have some examples of reflex action. Reflex action, the definition of the reflex action is 2 marks definition. Reflex action is an immediate response to specific stimulus, and it's rapid and automatic. Rapid or automatic, both are the 2 features of the involuntary actions in the body. So if he said, ya chemo, what are the main features of the reflex action? You can say it's rapid, automatic, and it is an immediate response to specific stimulus. Okay. In front of us, 2 examples of the cranial reflexes and the example or the pupil reflex and the spinal reflexes controlled by the spinal cord. The cranial reflexes or the pupil reflexes by being constricted or dilated, controlled by the brain, and this is involuntary action. You cannot control to keep your pupil dilated if you have bright area, because this is to protect the inner structure or the internal part of the retina in the body. What happens when your hand touches a hot object? I think if this question came in the exam, it will be a gifted question out of 5 marks. because you will apply what we mentioned in the previous slide. You will take the 5 marks easily, then you will go to the next question. Number 1, receptors will definitely detect that there is a heat here. Impulses will produce, so it will be transferred through or transmitted through the sensory neuron. And if you observed, the body is lateral body here, and the relay neuron after will coordinate and take the action, or coordinate and regulate the action needed. And finally, the spinal cord deliver the message or transmit the message through the motor neuron to the effector. So here, Judy, you can say effector or muscle, because the action will be taken by the muscle. Okay. Again, another diagram. In the presentation, I added all of the diagrams that you might face by the end of year exams. This is another diagram. I don't want anyone to say ربنا يسامحك Sir Rafael, because you did not show us this kind of diagrams. All of the diagrams are in, so there's no need to talk about this right now. This question also is extremely important. The difference between reflex action and voluntary action. The reflex action happens automatically under conscious control, not under conscious control, sorry, but the voluntary action, you will decide to attend the meeting, you will decide to study, you will decide to sleep, you will decide to eat or not. You will decide. This is called voluntary action according to your will, and it's somehow slower than reflex action. On the other side, the reflex action is automatic and it is rapid action. The impulses will be produced by receptors, but here the impulses will be produced by the brain. It makes sense, Yumna, because your brain will give you the order to sleep now, or to study now, or to eat now. So the impulses or the message will be transmitted, will be produced by the brain and transmitted through the neurons. Let's practice, guys. Using an example, distinguish between a stimulus and response. So what do you think? Ais Osama, what do you think? By using an example, could you please distinguish between stimulus and response?
Yes, mister, of course.
Yeah.
For example, if there is a nail in the ground, if the nail is a stimulus, because it's the one that it causes the body to take an action against it. So if someone steps on the nail, then the nail is the stimulus, and the response will come from the body, where he will move his foot away from the nail so that he doesn't hurt his foot. So that's the response.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Maya, what are the components of the nervous system? The main parts, the components, it means the main parts of the nervous system. The central, the peripheral nervous system, and the central nervous system made up of brain.
Brain or effector?
No, the brain and the spinal cord. I'm not talking about the message or about the transmission of signals. I'm talking about the main parts of the nervous system. Read the question well, so you will answer accurately, because I know well that you know the answer of this. Okay? So, Daniel, state the names of 3 kinds of neurons. What are the
sensory
names?
neuron.
ايه ده؟ Perfect. ماشي. And?
Sensory neuron
Yes.
motor neuron
Yes. Relay. Relay.
relay.
In the brain, we have relay neuron. Perfect. Okay. So sense organ. Definitely, we will talk about the eye structure. I'm giving you here an example, and I think we took this slide, or last time you saw this slide was in year 2 or year 3 maximum. When we are talking about sense organs, we have 2 eyes so we can see, but here we realized that the eye has receptor cells that respond to light. Nose has receptor cells, so respond to smell chemicals. Tongue has receptor cells, so you can respond to specific chemicals in order to test. Ear and skin are the same. Then we take an example, which is the typical structure of the eye. The eye is the sense organ responsible for light. On this slide, I want you to check this part only, okay? We have the external parts of the eye. We have the upper eyelid. We have this sclera, which is the white part of the eye, and it's covered with an area called conjunctiva, and this is definitely for protection. We have lower eyelid, pupil, and tear glands with eyelashes. There is no need to study this. I think we have a lot of in this slide you need to study and memorize. Okay, take a look on the names. Start clockwise or anti-clockwise. I'm sorry. Start anti-clockwise. Starting from the pupil. Okay, just take a look on the names in front of you, and I will clarify every single structure now. So we started with the pupil, cornea, the eyelashes already we mentioned. Iris, we cannot ignore the types of muscles in the iris, the radial muscle and the circular muscles. I will talk about this in details in the upcoming slides. Suspensory ligaments. So consider this slide يا ولاد بس بتعرفنا how to pronounce and how to memorize all of the structures in the eye. Okay? Suspensory ligaments, ciliary muscle, body or ciliary muscle. So if you wrote muscle or body, it will be perfect. Choroid and rectus muscles, no need to know them, but I will talk about them later, no problem. Sclera, which is the protection part and the point of attachment for all structures in the eye. Vitreous chamber or vitreous humor, and this is the part that contains transparent liquid in the eye to keep the eye in this spherical shape. Fovea, and this area accepts all of the light rays after refraction. Okay, the blind spot here, وأبوس إيديكم محدش يتلخبط between الفوفيا and the blind spot. And this is the optic nerve to transmit all of the electrical signals from the retina to the brain. And this is the retina, the white layer. The lens is here, and the conjunctiva is this part. And this is the iris, as we said. Okay. We have vitreous humor and we have aqueous chamber, the aqueous chamber from the name containing some fluids as well in order. This should be transparent at all, and this is for transmitting the light in this field from the atmosphere through the eye structure and to keep the eye in this fixed position or fixed shape. There are some photoreceptors in the retina. عشان ما تتلخبطوش، الريتنا دي يا ولاد هي السنسوري بارت اللي بتأكسبت كل اللايت rays، كل اللايت messages. So it contains a lot of receptors. Receptors دول are rods and cones. So rods responsible for detecting light intensity. Cones for detecting color change. So we have rods and cones in the retina, and both have different functions. Rods to detect different light intensity, different wavelength of the lights, and cones to detect some color wavelength, so it will detect up to millions of colors. Imagine لما تروح تشتري موبايل بتتشيك هو بيقدر يديتكت up to كام color، وبتبقى دايما impressed لما تلاقي الكولرز اللي الموبايل بيقدر يديتكت more than 100,000 colors. Our eyes can detect up to 8 million color. البنات طبعا هتعرف ده قوي، لان البنات بتعرف تفرق بين البينك والبودر والبينك التقيل والبينك الخفيف. احنا بالنسبه لنا كلها احمر، مش بينك حتى بالنسبه للولاد. بس anyways يعني الايز بتقدر سبحان الله to detect different colors definitely. طيب المسج after the detection will be delivered ازاي يا مايا؟ same sequence from the receptors to the first from the sensory neuron to the receptors, and this is the direction of light, and then the photoreceptors will change the message to the electrical messages, or the retina will do this to the electrical messages or electrical impulses, and all the electrical impulses will be transmitted through optic nerve to the brain in order to see. Okay? We mentioned about and roads, and this is the reflex. All what I want you to know that in bright light, the light intensity is extremely high, and the iris will respond because iris is a muscular structure. When it responded, it will make the pupil smaller, and this reduces the amount of light entering the eye. How can how could this happen? There are two types of muscles, radial and circular muscles, and we will see this in next slide directly. In dim light, same types of muscles will coordinate, will work together in order to just widen the pupil and to make it dilated. Widen will be accepted in the exam, dilated will be accepted, but I don't appreciate the word, using the word like became smaller, became larger. Okay, this is a very primitive English. I want you to use either wider or to use dilated, to use became narrower or constricted. This adds value to your end. In bright light, what will happen that all of the circular muscle, and this is the circular muscle, افتكروها directly بالcircles, okay, اللي أنا برسمه ده كله هعمله لكم هنا. All of this are examples of the circular muscles. The circular muscle will contract and the radial muscle relax. When the circular muscle contracts, what will happen is the pupil became narrow. Okay, so that this will protect, definitely this will protect the inner parts of the eye. In dim light, the opposite process will happen. The radial muscle contract and the circular muscle of the iris relax. So in the exam, if it is 3 marks question, you realize that you can take the 3 marks if you wrote this. If it is 4 marks question, how could we add something else? We should add that in number 4 here, it will protect your pen. 10 minutes. The fourth point, we should add to protect the inner structure of the eye. Because if you observe the Hilawi now, he said this reduces the amount of light entering the eye. طيب ماشي اوكي فاين شكرا. After reducing زي البابك طب يا سيدي شكرا. After reduction ده ايه benefits of this to protect the inner structure of the eye? Okay? In dim light, we need to increase the amount of light. مش هقول بقى to protect يا كيمو. هقول ايه؟ To allow more light to enter the eye in order to see. Okay? So اقدر answer the question ده حتى لو هو 4 mark. This is the example of the message Yamaya. That's what you mentioned in the transmission of electrical signals. We can apply this on the eye and eye structure. Full numbers يا ولاد عشان تعرفوا how all messages are transmitted. Light rays, receptors, the sensory neurons transmit the message through the optic nerve to the brain, and the relay neuron will coordinate and regulate. Then the message will be transmitted through the motor neuron to the iris, and iris هو اللي بيبدأ يكنترول this. Iris هنا, if iris هنا effector or not, it's an effector definitely because this is an iris muscle. Okay, the iris muscle احنا عمالين نتكلم على muscular structure يا ولاد. So iris muscle هنا is an effector. So that way, if he asked you to list or to describe, يعني مش عايز رغي كتير, مش عايز explain. So this will be the method. This is another practice question. Omar, outline the processes that take place in the pupil reflex when you leave a brightly lit room and enter a dark room. Name the receptor and the effector involved. I want you just to outline, so there is no need to explain. Omar, are you in?
Yes, Master.
Okay, could you please outline the processes?
The pupil gets larger.
Okay, but you started from the end results. I think you need to talk about the effect on the iris muscles itself. Okay, and how the eye has a lot of receptors, so it will sense change in light because it's telling you from brightly enter a dark room.
Mister, is there like a receptor for the eye specifically?
Definitely. In the retina we have a lot of the receptor cells.
No, does it have a name?
No, you can say receptors. Definitely rods and cones هم receptors على الretina, but here when I'm telling you online you can write receptor cells.
So I can say the receptors can sense change in light intensity.
Perfect.
And
so
yes.
What happens? Sensory neuron.
The sensory neuron in the optic nerve transmits impulses to the brain.
Yes, definitely transmit the impulses to the brain. In the brain we have
the relay neurons. Okay.
And the message will be delivered through the motor neuron and the effector in the iris in order to be either narrower or wider, constricted or dilated on the question, and definitely here it will be dilated because we want to see. Okay? This is not the eye accommodation. In the eye accommodation, I'm telling you what are the changes happen in the dark and in the when we have a distant object when we have a nearby object. Eye accommodation or supplement part يا دنيا يعني ده mainly هو البارت بتاعنا اللي we have to expect a lot of questions in. واحنا بنذاكر يا حبايبي please لازم to make sure ان السبلمنت او الاكستندد بارت ده ميه، انت حافظه ميه، انت فاهمه جدا. Because you have to definitely expect ان ال percentage of questions هتكون extremely higher في ال supplement part, not for the core part of year 9. Fine. This is a diagram to show you if we have an object like an eye, for example, how the image form in on the retina of the eye. Okay. Light rays will be refracted. Refracted, it means, and you taught this in physics, refracted means movement of light rays from or in between two different medium. Okay, we have here aqueous humor, so we have liquids, and this is the atmospheric air, so movement will be from the air to the liquid part, so it is two different densities. Number two, lens causes this refraction, and rays should be accepted here on the retina in a specific area called the fovea. What will happen after? Message will be taken to the brain or to the relay neuron through the optic nerve, and definitely the image will be totally clear by translating this image. Okay? This is the most important slide in the eye structure, the most important part. How we are focusing or accommodation different parts, or the eye accommodation, how it works, the adjustment of all of the eye parts in order to see a clear image. Focusing on a distant object happens mainly in 7 or 6 steps. 6 steps. I can say 6 steps. Okay. Let's start by the first step, and that's what I want you to write. Okay. In the exam, that's what I want you to write. 6 points directly in front of you at home. Okay. Number one, if the distance is really far. Okay, if we have, if the object is really far, so rays from a distant object coming, rays of light from a distant object came in a parallel rays, parallel force. وهوريكم the difference between a distant object nearby objects. The distant object, the ciliary muscles relax, and when the ciliary muscles relax, those are the ciliary muscles or ciliary part. When it relaxes, it pulls the suspensory ligaments. So this will change the shape of the lens, and it will be thinner or flatter. يبقى تاني لما ciliary muscles تكون relaxed, what will happen is that the suspensory ligaments will become taut or become tightened, okay, pulled, and this will definitely pull the lens from the two edges and make it really thinner or less convex lens. لما تكون less convex lens ايه اللي هيحصل؟ light rays will pass through this and will let the light rays focus on the fovea on the retina, okay? Because the focal length, which is the distance between the lens and the fovea on the retina will be more. Imagine كده with me يا عمر لو اللينس دي thick اكتر، مش الديستنس او الفوكال لينث دي اللي من اللينث لللاترال للريتنا will be shorter. It will be less. لكن if I have thinner one, it will be definitely it will be more. Okay, الديستنس دي will be اكتر، وهو ده اللي احنا عايزينه عشان يhelp us to focus all of the light rays on the focal. خلاص اللايت rays يا دانيال بقت على الفوبيا. what will happen is ان the nerve impulses تاخد اللايت ونبدأ نتكلم بنفس السيكونس again. The nerve impulses will be transmitted through the optic nerve to the brain, and this will make the image translated really clear. مش عايز اتكلم هنا بقى، المفروض تقولوا لي ايه؟ ايوه يا سير، الريز from a near object بتكون somehow divergent، وده اول difference. اوكي، هي مش بتيجي parallel like this. اوكي، بتبقى divergent. وبعدين بتفوكس on الريتنا in between اللي انا قلته ده بالبوست in between both. انا عندي هنا 2 points missed. I did not talk about the ciliary muscles والsuspensory ligaments. The suspensory ligaments will be slacken here. Okay, so it will not pull the length, so it will be more rounded. Okay, more convex, more thicker. All of this will be fine, and definitely this will shorten the focal distance and or the focal length, but by any means all of this just to control the receiving of the light rays accurately on the fovea. And هنقدر نكمل نفس الكلام. المسج will be transmitted through the optic nerve, will be translated in the brain, and will be definitely clear if we adjusted this. That's for the eye accommodation. Okay. I thought إن إحنا هناخد time أقل honestly, and I have another session with the AS students. So خلينا بسرعة جدا نخلص topic 14. Okay. So I will start working on the second presentation quickly. What do you think يا حبايبي؟ Is it effective ولا حسيتوا إن كل ده was fine وتمام وعارفينه؟ ممكن أسمع your feedback as usual.
Mister, I think it was
yes.
really, I think it was effective.
طيب أنت كنت ناسي حاجات في التوبيك ده يا عز، يمكن ده فكرك بيها؟
انا بس ايه لخبطت في النيونز، بس خلاص حاجه
طيب
بسيطه.
بس دلوقتي بقت ليه؟ احنا بقى عايزين نتفق على حاجة. احنا we need to answer 2 paper 4 exams every day. معلش أنا with all my respect to all your subjects, my biology paper هي أول paper. فاحنا هنحل 2 papers، واحدة paper 4 وواحدة paper 6 كل يوم. starting من امتى؟ خليني ابقى جدع معاكم. starting from Tuesday. هنعدي العيد وشم النسيم بتاعي وشم النسيم بتاعكم، انجوي وانبسطوا، خدوا البريك بتاعتكم لطيفة، وان شاء الله from Tuesday احنا every single day الكلاس بتاعتنا يا دنيا هتكون كالآتي: اونلاين سيشن 1 paper 4 1 paper 6. مش عايز منكم اكتر من كده. لو عملنا ده لحد الاكزام غير كل البيبرز اللي اوريدي احنا وي انسر، ده معناه ان احنا هنحل اب تو 15 او 20 امتحان بس في ال 3 ويكس اللي جايين لكل بيبر. فده ديل according بقى للستادي بلان اللي مشينا عليه او لا، according لل احنا متاخرين او لا، ده ديل هنتفق عليه. تعبان، مكسح، نايم، ميت، بتشتغل، ده مش مشكلتي. احنا هنسلكت اكزام مع بعض، بس let's say انه عايز اسامه مثلا he did this paper before, answer any paper تانية عايز. If you feel like sir I don't have any resources، كل اللي عندي حليته، اقول لك يا حبيبي ابعت لي، هبعت لك more resources no problem. المهم ان الديل بتاعنا 1 paper 4 1 paper 6 1 online session on daily basis. ديل؟ عايز اسمعكم. ديل؟
أنا موافق يا مستر.
ماشي يا حبيبي، ما دام انت
ماشي يا
موافق
مستر.
كله
تمام.
يبقى كله موافق. ما دام both عايزز موافقين يبقى اكيد عمر موافق.
كده طب يا مستر.
يبقى اكيد عمر
ماشي.
موافق، يبقى اكيد دانيا موافقة. دانيا حبيبتي بتاعت البايو كلها، انا عارف اكيد موافقة.
طبعا يا مستر.
ماشي. مايا طبعا بتموت في البايو، اكيد موافقة، يعني مش لازم نمنشن ناس. anyways تعالوا نبص على الصفحة جدا جدا. honestly I will not explain لأن التوبيك ده literally هو بس هنمنشن اللي احنا محتاجين نفهمه ونحفظه فيه، فده مش كروتة بس ده فعلا البارت اللي انتوا مش هتحسوا ان انتوا محتاجين فيه اي حاجة غير ان انتوا literally تذاكروه. اوكي خلينا نتشيك. هرمونز. just a second يا ولاد. What are hormones? Hormones are chemical substances produced by a gland, transported by bloodstream, and produced mainly either by ducted glands or ductless glands. But the main parts of hormones that we are talking about in this topic are hormones produced by ductless glands or the endocrine hormones. The hormone that I want you to focus on are the hormones from the hypothalamus, pituitary glands, kidneys, or I mean the adrenal hormone, or the adrenal glands, the adrenaline. Pancreas secretes some hormones, ovaries, eggs, testes for male, all of them, okay, are definitely important. Okay. The effect of adrenaline hormone is the most important hormone that you have to focus on. Okay, the effect and the importance. The effects: it increases the rate of breathing, it increases the rate of heartbeat, it causes the pupil of the eye to dilate, it increases the rate of blood clotting, and the supplement part, it causes the arterioles of the skin and intestines to constrict. It increases the metabolic rates. And please don't forget that some hormones stimulate the liver and muscles to convert glycogen to glucose. What are the importance of this? Those are the action taken by the hormone. What are the importance of this? This will give you the second mark, Judy. Now you said that the rate of breathing will be high. It increases the rate of breathing. But the importance, more oxygen can be taken into the body for aerobic respiration. Because ماشي أنا عرفت إن the rate of breathing will be increased. طب ماشي, what are the benefits of this? What are the action taken? ازاي البادي بيستفيد من ده. That's what I want you to check after this. Insulin hormone regulates the blood glucose level. There is another hormone working oppositely to insulin called glucagon hormone. Glucagon hormone increases blood glucose level. During Ramadan, كل سنة وانتم طيبين يا ولاد، احنا we need to maintain the glucose level. So if you have insufficient amount of glucose in your body, glucagon increases blood glucose concentration. Okay. Next. This is a practice. I want to give you just 1 minute to read the question, and if you have any problem to answer this or to understand the question, please let me know. If all of the questions is clear, this means that you understand you understand the concept, and definitely you can answer any question related to this. Don't forget that the part of the reproductive system and the hormones involved in the reproductive system is really important, but we will talk about all of those hormones in the topic 16, okay, in the next meeting. Take like 1 minute, read the question, and let me know if there is any problem. Okay. 2A, what is the gland that secretes insulin? Pancreas. Pancreas. The gland that produces adrenaline. The name of the gland, adrenal glands. Under what circumstances is adrenaline secreted? Under flight or fight response? Fight or flight response, okay? What are the effects of adrenaline on our body, and how does it help you? And the effect is the previous guy. The comparison is extremely important, the difference between endocrine and nervous control. Of homeostasis. This part of homeostasis is important because in this section we have to understand what is the idea of regulation of blood glucose concentration by the liver and by the pancreas.
Mister, I'm in the meeting. Why do you tell me mom I'm not in the meeting, Mister?
Sorry?
My mom is sent a message saying I'm not in the meeting.
No. No, I did not mention your name. Maybe by mistake? No. I'm sorry if I mentioned your name. I will listen to the message after the meeting again. Homeostasis is the maintenance of a constant internal environment. And in order to do this, we have to respond to some factor and to regulate all of the functions. We have a lot of organs helps in homeostasis. It's not only one organ. Skin as an organ helps in homeostasis. Pancreas, liver, a lot of organs help to reach the internal body conditions or to reach stability or maintenance of internal body conditions. Okay? Enzymes in the body can only work with a certain range of temperature. That's why if temperature has been raised for any reason, definitely, this will affect the homeostasis. All of the tissues should kept in a constant or at a constant pH. Okay, you can turn your camera off, Yonder, no problem at all, because it's on. Okay, constant pH and water. Okay, the water potential. We need constant pH and we need to control the water potential in order to control how the materials move, okay, and how the some actions will happen, some dramatic actions will happen, okay. If there is a problem in the pH, if we have wrong pH, if we have if we have pH causing a kind of denature for the enzyme. For the water potential as well. The water potential is really important because we need a concentration gradient for all types of cells in order to move water from high concentration to low concentration through partially permeable membrane. Why glucose concentration needs to be kept constant? Because for some tissues, it will be a harmful effect or severe harmful effect on the tissues if we have high concentration of glucose in the blood or rotating throughout the body. So glucose is needed for cell respiration, so it should be inside the cells, maintained and controlled by homeostasis. Okay, this is the mechanism of negative feedback, how we reach the normal conditions, how we return back if an effector, if any kind of stimuli detect specific or the receptors detect specific stimuli and send a message to take an action, how this action will be cancelled by another action. So this is the homeostasis, and this is called negative feedback. Example of this, and I do prefer to check this type before this one. I want to check this before this one, because when you understand how liver and pancreas working on the amount of glucose and the amount of glucagon, how it control the amount of glucose and glycogen by controlling this action using insulin and glucagon. خلاص, definitely you will understand the negative feedback example. So you can write about this. الميكانيزم بتاع الليفر يا ولاد والبنكرياس وهاو it controls the insulin secretion and the glucagon secretion to control glucose level. هو ده اهم حاجه، واللي بيه هقدر افهم الفيدباك ميكانيزم دايركتلي. ازاي لما الجلوكوز بي increase الانسولين will be secreted more. ازاي لما الجلوكوز decreased الجلايكوجين will be converted to glucose under the effect of glucagon hormone. الجلوكاجون hormone برضه secreted from البنكرياس بس definitely another type of okay. Don't have sufficient amount of insulin. If the pancreas stop working insulin, this means that you will be diagnosed as type 1 diabetes, and the treatment of this is the insulin injection. Human skin and temperature regulation, very important to affect the structure of the skin. Please ما تنسوش, starting from the erector muscle, the sweat gland, the hair structure and hair follicle, the blood vessels, the subcutaneous fats or the fat layers, derms and epidermis layers. كل اللايرز دي انا بس بريفايز وبريكاب معاكم. بس النيرف endings دي definitely باين قوي يا دنيا ان هي الريسبتورز. Okay, so مهم قوي study from the presentation وتاك ازاي الستراكشر ده involved in regulating the body temperature. أهم part في الستراكشر ده هو blood capillaries والshunt vessel. الshunt vessels هي الفيسلز اللي in between arterioles أو blood capillaries arterioles والvenules. So those called shunt vessels. الshunt vessels دي يا ولاد has an ability to dilate or constrict based on the amount of blood that you want to expose to the skin surface. For the sweat glands and the importance of secreting sweat, very important to mention this because this will cool the body. And if you wrote cool the body, this will give you a mark definitely. The nerve endings and how it sense the temperature. Okay, so those are thermoregulation. Look at this mechanism. How does the body lose heat? The mechanism by the arterioles and the passage of blood through the arterioles and venules and the shunt vessel. Look at the thickness of the shunt vessels. Shunt vessels contracts and shunt vessels here dilates. If shunt vessels في يا ولاد معلش عشان محدش فيكم يبقى بس مش فاهم ان الshunt vessels دي هي كوبري هي بريدج. If I don't have shunt vessels here ده معناه انه مفيش تشانس ان انا اكونترول السايز او مش السايز الاماونت of blood اللي بيباس through the surface of the skin. Okay, more heat is carried to the skin surface if I have constricted shunt vessels. لو انا قفلت دي وضيقت دي يبقى انا I have more blood will pass through the arterioles. يبقى more blood flow للskin surface. Okay, then send me a private message. Okay. Accepted Kareem. Okay. But I started the meeting with 12 students and I realized that I have 7. Okay. Just come and attend the session with me. If you join and there is an internet problem, no problem at all. Come and attend the session with me. At least you will listen like I'm here in school. I gave you an option. If there is a problem in the internet, definitely come and join me. I'm here in the lab. At least you will listen. You can come and sit beside me here to check the presentation. No problem. But you did not use this way of thinking. This is my concern. Anyways, no problem at all. Okay. And you will submit the exams. You are in. Okay. No problem. No problem. No problem. Okay. Okay. If you want. No. Okay. 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 I'm sorry, guys. The joint vessels here again, joint vessels became constricted if we have a high body temperature, so we need more heat loss. And if I have low body temperature, so the joint vessels will be dilated, so large amount of blood will pass through the joint vessels. مهم قوي يا ولاد ان انا افهم البارت بتاع الجوينت فيسلز وازاي هي بتكنترول الاماونت اوف بلاد عشان اعرف understand ازاي الهيت will be lost from the body if we have high body temperature. مهم قوي يا ولاد برضو ان انا اتشيك السايز او dimensions of the arterioles والvenules in both cases. Okay. طيب. This is the hypothalamus and how it detects any change in the body temperature. The change in the body temperature will be detected by the hypothalamus in the brain and the thermoreceptors اللي موجودين على السكين surface. Look at the sequence after the session and you will realize that this same way of the neuron messages or transmission of messages through neuron. Okay. Same for when the body temperature begins to fall, the message will be sent in the same way, and vasoconstriction will happen, so the body temperature increases. Okay. I think there is no need to revise on this. خلينا نفتكر إنه في hormone called auxins. The auxins hormone are the plant hormones control the growth either towards light or away from light, towards gravity or away from gravity. That's investigation. Please check all of the investigations because this is a revision session. There is no need to go through the investigation again. If there is a problem, let me know. All of the tropism here or this part is an investigation. The Klein state is an instrument used in order to study tropism in the plant. When we have this kind of motor rotating all of the seeds and auxins, definitely the growth will be like that, horizontal like that, without going upward or downward because there is no unequal distribution or uneven distribution for the auxins. Okay? Words, قلنا إن هي بتaccumulate on one of the sides بتstimulate الجروث أو في الروت بتreduce الجروث. ده بيخلي البلانت has the ability to bend in one direction. Okay. وبرضه نتاك الأوكسين بتهيب للبلانت إنه يموف upward or downward. لو خدتوا بالكم I swear to God كل الكويستشنز اللي انتوا قلتوا لي مش فاهمينها في الاكزامز موجودة كلها في البرزنتيشن. Like if you remember this question يا ولاد. Okay. وازاي الاجار بيبلوك الاوكسين ترانسفيرز وازاي في area after removing the tip of the plant. ودي point مهمة قوي لازم نفتكرها إنه الأوكسينز produced from the tip of the plant من أعلى part produced from this part. Okay, then it will diffuse downwards. بس the production هو ال tip of the plant. Okay, I think خلاص ده كان the more complicated part of the topic for today. Okay. I will manage with you in the group the time of the meeting by the end of the day. Do you have any problem of any kind in topic 14? Is there any problem, something still unclear or still hard?
Yes, sir.
Who's talking? Daniel?
Yumna.
Yumna, okay. Hey, Yumna, what do you prefer? What do you think now? It became way better? Because you
Yes.
asked me several times to revise on topic 14.
Yes, it's much better.
Hi, it's okay. It's okay. Judy feel the same? She's with you, right?
Saying it's better.
Okay. 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 Daniel? boys. عمر كنت محتاج الريفيجن دي ولا حاسس انه لا انت you are perfectly fine in topic 14.
Yes, Mr. I need it.
طيب it's okay. At night بقى هعمل لك topic 17 اللي انت عايزه اللي مجننك دوت لانه في two other students asked me to revise on this topic as well.
Thank you, Mr.
The session at night will be 1 hour and a half. We will manage the time together on the group. Please just a second.